Hello sorcerers, I'm back with another video, and I'm trying to use real-world examples when I talk to you about sourcing or procurement, because a lot of people don't know what we're talking about. I'm trying to make this accessible to everyone. You could send this stuff to your family if you're in procurement. You're like, this is what I do, because nobody knows what we do. In previous videos, I have shared what certain procurement terms mean, what negotiating strategies you can use on general terms, but there is a very basic negotiating strategy that anybody can use in their everyday lives, and it's called 3 bids and a buy. 3 bids and a buy is exactly what it sounds like. You get 3 quotes for a good or service, compare the 3, and then pick the best price or most agreeable delivery terms. It's not always about price. You may need to think sooner. 3 bids and a buy can make a complicated bidding process or commodity, it can make it easier and more accessible to potentially get a discount. I'll give you a complicated example. Software. Software is hard to do comparative analyses. Product A and product B do similar things, but they're not exactly the same, so it's hard to compare them exactly. But in the case of software, many software entitlements and licenses are sold through third-party resellers. So you can reach out to that third-party reseller and ask them for a quote for the software that you want. And then you can do that to other resellers as well. You may have a better relationship with a certain reseller or buy more through that reseller and get a better price. So you're buying exactly the same thing, but you're calling 3 or 4 different providers, and you may get superior pricing because they're doing better business with the company that makes the product, and they can give you a better discount. Here's a little inside baseball if you know a procurement person. If you're not a procurement person watching this video, ask procurement people to talk about buying a car or buying beds. They get very excited and animated and talking about negotiating the best practices for cars and beds. The car thing to me is obvious, right? Everybody knows that going to a car dealership is going to be a gnarly negotiation. But I didn't know the thing about a bed. I've only bought a bed once in my life, in my adult life. And I've taken beds from my parents and stuff before that. So in my adult life, I've purchased one bed and now I had to buy another one literally last week. I remember the chief procurement officer that I work for to this day telling a story about 8 years ago about buying beds. And I was like, I didn't realize this was a thing that you had to negotiate and that you can negotiate beds, and it's a whole thing. Buying a bed is a whole thing. When we realized that we needed to buy a new bed, that our bed that's 15 or so years old has reached its limit, which, by the way, in my personal opinion, I would not recommend purchasing a bed that has a pillow top feature. The previous bed that we purchased had a pillow top, and it tends over the years to have cavities. So our bed was immensely uncomfortable over the last 6 or so months, and it was very much time to replace the bed. But because I knew that buying a bed is a thing, and it's a negotiating thing, and it's a procurement thing, I haven't had the time to do the research to understand what I was fully walking into, and I did not like that. The situation with the beds is that historically, companies that make beds will change the model number for the retail outlets that they sell the beds in. So if you buy a bed in Macy's, you'll get a different part number for that bed versus the Sears or the Mattress King or wherever else you may buy the mattress. It's exactly the same bed, but it has totally different IDs. So if you call and say, hey, do you have product A? They're going to say, no, we don't. When they actually do, product A is exactly the same thing as product 77 at the other place. So if you're calling to do a price analysis or comparison, it's impossible because they're all going by different names and different products. The internet, to a certain degree, has neutralized some of that. In our case, we tried out a bunch of different beds in a bunch of different places that all had a bunch of different prices, and we landed on a Stern & Foster's bed. That's what we wanted to buy. And we got the model number and we found it online. I called 4 different places that sold this bed. and I got 4 totally different prices. And I got the most competitive price, and I started calling to see if people will do price match. And in some cases they did, in some cases they didn't. The other piece of buying this particular bed, and this kind of goes into the delivery options that I mentioned earlier, some providers of the bed included the box springs for free. Some places included delivery, free delivery, and also the removal of your previous bed. To me, the removal service was extremely important. I did not want to have to deal with getting rid of that other bed and getting it out of the house. So the combination of all of those things, all of those factors, I wrote all of them down. Price, free delivery, cost of the box springs, and if they did the removal service. And I called around and I went to different places, and eventually I got the best price. But here's the kicker. This is what makes this video good. The place where I got the best price and the best delivery options, I absolutely hated the sales rep. I thought he was unhelpful. I'm not going to call out the name of the company because I don't need to put that drama in the world. It was a local South Jersey outlet. They sold multiple pieces of furniture, and part of what I was trying to do, here is another negotiation tactic. I was trying to combine multiple purchases that I intended to do. I recently remodeled my basement. I wanted to buy new couches. And I wanted to see if I can buy couches and chairs and the bed and get a better price for all 3 things. So when I went into this place that sold multiple pieces of furniture, I asked for help. I said, can you show me different types of couches? And the individual was very unhelpful. He did not know what was in stock, what was available, what was a sleeper sofa. I wanted to buy a sleeper sofa for the basement. He didn't know any of these things, and he basically said, you can just walk around and look at a tag to see if it's a sleeper sofa. And when you're talking about a furniture store, that is a very overwhelming experience. This gentleman had absolutely the best price, by far. But I disliked him, and it made me physically ill at the idea of giving this person my business. So what I did is I called the other places that sold this bed and see if they can meet my price. Some of them started to come down, but they couldn't match that price. I explained to one salesperson that I happened to like the situation, and I said, how far can you go? Even if you don't meet this price, can you get me lower than what you have to justify me spending more money with you? And you know what? They called their manager, and they actually eventually beat the price for me. I got free shipping, I got free box springs, I got the mattress taken out, and I got the absolute best price overall. Now, I had to wait an extra week for the bed, but that was agreeable and acceptable to me. So 3 bids and a buy. You're buying exactly the same thing. You're not really signing a contract or anything of the sort in this example for the bed, or also in procurement situation if you're potentially buying retail software. You're buying through a reseller. You may not have to do a negotiation or a contract negotiation. You're literally just calling 3 or 4 places that's selling this particular retail piece of software or whatever it may be, and you're just letting the companies negotiate against each other in a very quick and easy way. And it works. And you may not necessarily get better pricing, but you may get other terms that are agreeable to you. Delivery, again, if it's a piece of hardware, or maybe you'll get more months on a subscription service. There are other things that you may be able to get that makes it advantageous for you to purchase from one place versus another. And if nothing else, the act of doing a 3 bid and a buy process justifies your pricing. In a situation like today in 2022, where inflation is insane, prices are all over the place, calling 4 or 5 different places and getting a price lets you know that you're not being ripped off and that it literally is flat everywhere, or it's the same everywhere. So at least you can sleep at night. If you have to go out and buy something, then you're not getting taken advantage of. So here's an example of 3 bids and a buy. It is a viable and simple negotiating tactic. And again, I try to give it to you in a real world example instead of a complicated procurement term. So I hope that you enjoyed this. I hope that this was educational. And if you have questions, leave it in the comments section below. Thanks for watching.